Alright, welcome to build update number 3. If you've seen the first two, the first one is my Savage Nuke Mjolnir Marauder, who is now a Juggernaut, and the second one is my Poison Blade Vortex Shadow, who is now an Assassin. So I haven't created a build guide for my Fakener character yet, which is what this character is, namely because there's a lot of Fakener things out there. But I want to highlight what I've done with this character and why I went Trickster instead of going Assassin. Spoiler alert. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pull up the tree. So if you've seen the last video, you saw what the Trickster does and how they get more crit, right? Well, if you've ever played a cast on crit build, I've personally found that I don't need more damage. I need to be tankier. So the Trickster Shadow Ascendancy class, if you're playing this build as a Shadow, offers just that. So we'll start with the things that make me tankier. The nodes in here give you more damage and make you attack faster. We got Ghost Dance, so our energy shield will recharge faster. We have Dodge and Spell Dodge, and we run faster when on full energy shield, which also helps with Cyclone. Hint, hint. Alright, more cast speed and attack speed, energy shield, evasion rating, and then Shade Form. 500 flat evasion, 250 flat ES, 20% increased attack and cast speed if energy shield is recharged in the last 4 seconds, that's what recently means. 20% more chance to evade attacks while not on full energy shield. So basically this is like having a very good evasion ES shield that for free, as well as some nice buffs. It's very good. And then finally the last thing, mana and attack and cast speed into Walk the Aether. Movement skills cost no mana, 20% increased attack and cast speed if you've used a movement skill recently. So, the following skills on my bar are movement skills: Whirling Blades, Flicker Strike, oh, and guess what? Cyclone. So, our trigger skill is now free. So, if you remember before, we were using Elrond jewelry to minimize the cost of our Cyclone, as well as a Blood Magic Clarity to help maintain using our skills. So, because of the fact that we no longer need to use Elrond jewelry, that let me swap in some very good rings that I happen to have lying around, as well as a very good amulet. Critical multiplier, yay. Alright, so what that meant is in the passive tree, I could, because one of my rings had Dex, I could drop out of the Dex node here and pick up Path of the Savant, which is more damage. Who knew? So in the last patch, they did nerf some of the critical strike chance dagger nodes to try to bring daggers more in line with other things. But they also modified the increased critical strike chance gem, which increases our base crit, which pretty much made up for whatever we lost, because I was using this anyway. Yeah, so, with that, my life pool went from about 1.4k to 1.8k, and my energy shield went from about 4.5k to over 6,000. And because of the extra move speed and attack speed that I have, it's like this build feels stronger than ever. So one of the other things they nerfed, quote-unquote nerfed, was they nerfed how many times each Blade Vortex stack can hit the same enemy. So it used to be each stack could hit twice a second, which meant that that the power charges generated from that cast on crit was rather high. Because every time the Blade Vortex stack would crit, you would get more power charges, which was one of the key things that makes this build very strong, is the fact that you have like 7 power charges all the time, right? But so that they nerfed that to it can only trigger hit once a second, which I haven't noticed affecting the power charges at all. I think that one of the things I was aimed at was trying to make Surgeon Flask Blade Vortex a little bit less overpowered. And yeah. So I need to go find Vol so I can kill him to demonstrate how powerful I am. Yes. Okay, here he is. Righteous Fire! Okay. Yay! So I can actually stun Vol with discharges when Righteous Fire is active. Yay! Overpowered, maybe? No, I think this build is fine. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and go back to town. You can see my backup gems leveling in the background here. Actually, that might be the core discipline. Let's check. So if this is the core discipline, I level up. My energy shield should increase. It's not. The core discipline, which is over here, is already level 19. That means the other one is catching up, though, so we can potentially get a good Vol Corrupt. Alright, so I'll do one last thing on this character before we do the next build review. So, I'm going to do a little history. If you didn't know anything about this character was made in the last league, which was Talisman. And why was that? Well, I got a 6-link Vol's Protector in Talisman. The way I did that, I didn't buy it. I 6-socketed it, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to try to link this, and we'll see what happens. I hit the 6-link. So I was like, well, I might as well try to play a cast on crit character because that would be awesome. So that's what I ended up doing. I originally was using this dagger here. It's a Vegan dagger, it's a pretty good dagger. But when I migrated to standard, I had a 5-link Pulse Devotion in standard. And I was like, I'm gonna make a build for this eventually. So I crafted a pretty darn good Vegan dagger on a pointer. So I'm using this because it's just better. But yeah, that's a brief history of this character. He's done at Zeri. At Zeri will be even easier now that we have the Trickster class and all that extra energy shield. Without further ado, we're going to move on to the next character, which happens to be Parandus, which you guys should be excited about. So I've only